And good evening, everyone. Welcome to Talladega, race 15 of season 57 of the Rolling Thunder Gaming Talladega Challenge Series. That's right, folks. Tonight, 14 races in the books. It's time to crown a champion at the end of tonight's 66-lap event. Who's going to win the championship? We might have ourselves a first-time champion, but there's three others that are in the Final Four that have won championships in the past. They're looking to continue on their legacy as multi-time champions here in this series. Now, unfortunately, last week we ended up having four drivers that got eliminated, did not move on to the Final Four, but it's kind of a gain for us up here in the commentators booth because very pleased to welcome Rodney Sullins in tonight's broadcast commentary team. Rodney, thank you for being here.
Thanks, Seth. I appreciate you having me. I'm looking forward to watching this race tonight from the booth. It's going to be an exciting one, I know.
Obviously, unfortunately, not in the championship hunt here tonight, but let's remember back one season, you were in the Final Four. So for the four drivers here tonight, Grant Wesley, Bob Seminara, Jeremy Jeffries, Brian Schilling, what kind of thoughts are going through their mind? What kind of strategy are they playing out, especially based off the fact of the random qualifying draws?
That's it. Looks like I was looking at some of the qualifying. I think Grant's up front. The rest of the guys are kind of mixed back through the pack. So those guys are going to be just like keep the truck clean, keep their eyes out, and make it past the first to the second pit stop, and then hopefully you're good to go and just turn it loose. Go do what you do.
Some interesting storylines with these Final Four drivers. Of course, Grant, last week, must-win situation, was able to nab that checkered flag. He's the defending champion, looking to get back-to-back championships here between season 56 and 57. Bob Seminara, a former multi-time champ, but he hasn't won a championship since season 49, and Brian Schilling's been even further back for him, multi-time champ, but his last championship trophy was captured in season 47. For Jeremy Jeffries, though, here tonight, he is looking for that first championship trophy. And it's kind of odd when you consider that based off of the Tally Challenge career statistics, Jeremy Jeffries is kind of the underdog here.
That's crazy to think, isn't it? Yeah, he's I don't know how many races he's won this year. I believe he's won 2. And it's kind of crazy that he's not won a championship because he's always one to contend with here. Always.
We're going to get to the starting lineup here in just a moment, but Ronnie and I had a little bit of a chuckle here in the early going when the random draw was put together, and you're not going to see the truck get on track on the pole sitter position. Ronnie, I'm going to let you tell the story here.
Just last year, for example, last season, my average start was like 29th. I think my best start was like 10th or 15th. Tonight, I'm in the booth. Guess who's on the pole? Sure enough, it's me. The first time ever. Never had a pole here before. And tonight's the night. Go figure.
It's incredible. We end up having random qualifying and something like this. You can't script this kind of stuff. Folks, Rodney only was given top 10 starting positions 4 times prior to tonight this season via the random draw. Highest starting spot was second place. And as you said, tonight you end up getting the pole and you're up here in the broadcast. But it's so weird. So regardless of that, that means that Grant Wesley, who is going to be slated to roll off third, he'll move up a spot and he will start as the pole sitter. But Joe DeSpirito would be second. Third place now with all the inside line moving up. Dave Cannon, Jessica Shelton would roll off in fourth. Bob Dixon would be fifth. Doug Kulik sixth. Then Greg Palmer, Bernie Mobbs, Milt Surratt, and Chuck McClure. They would complete the top 10. 11th will be Terry Bombard. 12th, Glenn Harris. 13th, Mark Paglia. 14th, Dave Melson. Cy Jones would complete the top 15. Looks like the 24 drop into the back. Interesting there. We'll follow up on that. And you got Ken Roberts. He'll be rolling off from the 17th position. Tim Nofsker in 18th, 19th, Jeremy Jeffries, and Brian Schilling is going to complete the top 20. Josh Metallic, he's in 21st. 22nd place is where we'll find John Godfrey. 23rd, Wayne Pribnow. Bob Seminara, as you mentioned, Ronnie, way back there in the 24th position. Jeff Crivello, Bobby Farrell, they're going to make up row 13 with Robbie Nisus. Our season opener winner, Nathan Balser, back in 28th, and Donnie Garrett will bring up the rear of the field. It's going to be a total of 29 trucks to take the green flag here tonight. And it's going to be really interesting to watch the strategy of these Final Four, really based off of what we saw in last week's penultimate race, the final elimination race. We saw a bunch of different drivers, playoff contenders, with torn up trucks in the early going with a couple of quick yellows and some big wrecks.
Oh yeah, it's going to be exciting tonight. Last year we had that trucks getting tore up early in the race, and then coming to finish this thing for the championship. Grant got in a wreck. Same thing could happen tonight, but I just want to see a big, good race. I mean, just a great race. That's all I want to see.
Josh Metallic dropping into pit road here at the initial start of the race. Oh, nope, faked me out. He's coming back up on the racetrack. Saw
Yeah, they
Spirito drop to the back there in the 24. Might be dropping back there to help the 712 in the early going.
That's exactly what I was going to say. The 712 and the 24 always draft together, the Florida boys, and wouldn't surprise me a bit if that was Joe's plan. It was to get back there with Bob.
Well, we're underway as the green flag flies for the final time here in season 57. It's last week's winner, defending champ Grant Wesley, that's going to lead them into turn one. And remember, folks, for the final four, bonus points mean nothing. You can lead the most laps, you can lead a lap. Those bonus points aren't going to count. It's going to come down to who is the highest finishing position driver out of the final four.
Oh yeah, coming down to they're too wide from looks like third on back. Grant's leading, like you say. Doesn't matter. He could lead 65 laps. If somebody else, Bob Seminaire, for example, leads lap 66, he's the champ.
It was interesting before we came on the air, you were talking about how the random qualifying draw really changes up what type of a strategy you have in the early going. So looking at someone like Bob Seminara, even Brian Schilling, Jeremy Jeffries, none of those three started this race inside of the top 15. Are you looking to charge to the front now, or are you kind of in ride mode, kind of observing everything that's going on ahead of you and then kind of picking your moment to move to the front?
I've seen guys do a couple of different things. I see Jeremy's on the bottom right now. I would imagine that's kind of where he wants to stay, so he can see kind of if something happens, he can kind of get away because it's usually going to go up. I don't expect to see too many of them go three wide right off the bat here because just kind of, take it easy and work yourself up there. Keep your truck in one piece. That's the goal for at least to the first pit stop.
There's a bunch of drivers in the field, 25 to be exact, that don't even care about the championship.
Big wreck in the middle of tri-oval.
Dalton's going to lead that lap here, coming to the caution. Paglia, Robbie Nisus, Wayne Pribnow in the 14. Tom Dixon, the Batmobile, the 45. Nathan Balser, the 079. Don't know if the 92 of Bobby Farrell might have gotten a piece. He was slow leaving the incident, but that might have been that he got on the brakes and was able to avoid. I don't see any of our Championship 4 involved, although poor Brian Schilling was back in this vicinity. Don't know if he was caught up or not. We'll find out via the replay, but maybe, possibly, one of our Championship 4 contenders with some issues in the early going. Only time will tell when we drop back and get a more in-depth look of what happened through the tri-oval.
Yeah, we had a couple of contenders there. Schilling got spun, but I don't think he's got any damage. We'll get that replay to show here in just a moment.
Look at it. Oh, it started even further up. Cy Jones, Mark Paglia, I think, made some contact on that inside line, and there you see that minimal contact you're talking about there, Rodney, to the 40. I think he's okay. Got hit from behind by Jeff Crivello. Had a couple of drivers with some spins there. The 56 went around, the 77 went around. A lot of harmless spins kind of there at the latter half of that wreck, crossing the start-finish line.
Anytime you can get sideways in the tri-oval and not come away with a lot of damage, you've had a good time.
If we can pinpoint where that contact was that started the wreck. Cy Jones is the yellow and purple Sunoco number 7 on the inside. Paglia, red, white, and blue Ford Quality Care Ford F-Series in the middle, and almost kind of looked like thought he might be clear on the 7, wasn't quite. One of the harder places to kind of judge if you're clear there too, especially if you're going from top to middle or middle to bottom there through that tri-oval area.
Absolutely, absolutely, and he just barely touched it. And that's all it takes in the tri-oval, as you know. Just any slight little bump in the tri-oval can send you around. I think they're going to hold pits off one lap. I don't think they got lined up, so I think they're going to go around one more time before they pit.
So on board with the 712 of Bob Seminara. He was back in the middle of this as well, behind John Godfrey. Smoke there. Wow, just barely split between, I think that was Wayne Pribnow's 14 and the 28 of Mark Paglia, who was coming up the racetrack. So we nearly had 50% of our final four maybe get torn up, and did a great job of avoiding or got lucky in some harmless spins there. Last thing you want to do is come this far in the season, make it into the final four to compete for the championship, and not even have a championship contending truck less than 10 laps into the finale.
Yeah, there was. I don't think you know this. I don't know if it was the year that you broadcast, but I was in the Final Four about 3 seasons ago, I believe. And the final race, I somebody come across my truck, and I spun down to the inside on the back stretch, and come back up on the track, and no caution ever come out, and there was not a caution in the race, so I never even got to compete. This was in the first 2 or 3 laps of the race, so I was, just riding around by myself for 66 laps.
Wow.
Yeah, it was painful because I knew without a caution, my chances were done.
Pit road is open this time. Just to confirm what you were saying there, yeah, they had some kind of a scoring issue there, trying to figure out where everybody was supposed to be. I think it due in part to, as we said, like the latter half of that wreck was a bunch of trucks spinning across the start-finish line, so more than likely everybody trying to figure out where they were scored and where they needed to be under pacing, Jessica Shelton leading them down pit road. And just before we had the wreck, I was bringing up the fact that there's 25 other drivers. They could care less about the championship. They're not in the running for it. They're just out here trying to finish off the season with a victory. They're trying to get max points, finish as high as they can in the final season standings. You look at a lot of other series where they have their finales. Some of them go to Homestead. I've seen some go to Auto Club. I mean, those are tracks where things can get relatively spread out. You've got the rest of your competition that are out here just trying to get a checkered flag, aren't even battling for that trophy, and they're right up your door, right up your back bumper. Close proximity racing. This has got to be one of the toughest types of series to try and strategize for a championship, just based on the fact that everybody else is on a different agenda, and there's really nobody out there that's on the same agenda as you.
That's right. It's you have guys out there that are just wanting to try to get that trophy, and they're running around wanting to win, and you get put out in a situation. Next thing you know, you go from first or second to 15th in half a lap, without wrecking. That doesn't happen at those other tracks, but it happens here pretty consistently. I just got word that Brian Schilling's motor has blown.
Oh my gosh.
They rolled it back to the garage. So it looks like the number 4 is out of competition.
At him right now. Looks like that truck's under power.
He's still running.
Wonder if maybe he's down a gear, perhaps? Is still under power, it looks like. The truck is maintaining an increasing speed.
Yeah, he looks fine to me.
Follow up on that. Had a couple of drivers come to pit road and top off, Paglia and McClure.
I got your answer now, Seth. He said that somebody told me that he said that his motor was shut off, which means he's probably got a little bit more damage than we may be seeing him not finish this race from an engine problem. They shut it off. They only do that if you have some pretty significant damage. And I didn't see him get it, but obviously something happened.
And I've said this before, and I'll continue to say it. NR is so strange with how it determines how much damage you sustain from a wreck in the early going, because what looks like a harmless wreck, drivers will be miles per hour off the pace. They're not able to stay up in the draft. Go back to last week. I almost thought that Brian Schilling was out of the running for advancing into the Final Four because he was involved in a pretty good wreck, had some pretty good damage, and that truck, if he had a drafting partner, was able to stay up inside the top 5. So NR's very weird with its damage model, especially in terms of super speedway racing. We'll have to see if that 4 truck's able to stay up here with the lead pack. He can't rely now on just a top 5 to advance into a next round like he did last week. Now he's got to keep the 712, the 88, and the 8 in his rearview mirror, and that might be a tougher task here today.
Oh, absolutely. I'm trying to take a look at Schilling's truck, and I'm not seeing a whole lot of damage, but you're right. I mean, this damage model with almost a perfectly straight looking truck, and he's got engine trouble, so it's crazy sometimes.
You talked about how random pit draw or grid draw here with this series can make you vary up your strategy. Saw a number of drivers elect to stay out, including one of our championship contenders, Bob Seminara, who will be the one to lead us to green. Of course, leader gets lane choice, so no surprise. He elects the top side. That'll have Joe DeSpirito on his back bumper for this upcoming restart. So taking the track position over topping off the fuel tank there for the 712. We'll see if that pays off for him in the long run.
Yeah, I thought I seen him stay out. It kind of surprised me, but like you say, he's went from the back to the front without having to fight the field.
All drivers that were involved in the first caution of the day came down pit road, repaired damage, have returned to the track. So all 29 drivers that started this race will continue this race on this first restart, and all 29 at this point in time are on the lead lap. Bob Seminara's got the field in hand as he brings them down through the tri-oval. Green flag and a fly once again. Both lines trying to get the jump here. Good shove from the 77 to the 56. 24 giving a push to the 712. We'll see which line prevails as they go through 1 and 2.
Corello trying to sneak up in front of Bob. Looks like he's made it. Donnie Garrett on the inside now, leading it down the backstretch, but I'm sure that outside line is going to prevail by the time they get to turn 3.
Got a pass right there for third. Grant Wesley got by Bob Seminara. Obviously, last week we saw some frustration between Seminara and Grant Wesley as those two were door banging to the start-finish line for that checkered flag. Be interesting to kind of follow that up. Obviously can understand the frustration of Bob Seminara. He's been winless this season, but at the same time, you kind of got to put that in the rearview mirror, right? Because if you have that kind of in the forefront of your mind, you're kind of taking your mentality off the most important thing, and that's going out there and winning this championship.
Absolutely, and what just happened on the backstretch not going to help that feeling either, because Grant and Donnie just straight powered past that outside line to get up in front, and that doesn't happen very often. But Grant's a man on a mission tonight, but he's been running good this whole entire playoff, so it doesn't surprise me. But he's tucked up under that 77, and they're locking bumpers and headed somewhere.
Definitely there are alliances when it comes to super speedway racing, and I think I ended up seeing somebody else kind of start to form an alliance. Looked like the 17 of Chuck McClure threw out the parachute, jumped up to the extreme outside line last time through 1 and 2. Might have been dropping back to maybe pick up the 4 of Brian Schilling. So we'll follow up on that. Schilling right now back in the mid-pack area, just around the 19th, 20th position. Yeah, now Chuck's going to tuck down in front of the 4, so might be trying to maybe be the battering ram to lead the 4 up through the field.
Absolutely. Those guys have drafted together a lot. I see them together quite often. They're a hard group of guys to split up, that's for sure. But they run really good together.
Now we'll see, we normally sometimes see early cautions here in the super speedway races, and everybody, the adrenaline starts to temper down under pacing. Everybody takes a deep breath and figures, okay, let's settle into a long run now. We've got the early race jitters out of our system, so now we'll see if these drivers will be more focused on the aggressive racing up at the front, or if they'll start settling into pit strategy mentality.
Absolutely. I've been watching Schilling the last lap or so, and I don't know if it's just the air affected him right now, or if his truck does have some damage, but he doesn't seem to be able to keep up with Chuck and Jeremy Jeffries.
Gate of Jeffries up there on the top side with McClure. Josh Metallic pushing that 4 of Brian Schilling. Now Doug Kulick's going to jump up there to that extreme outside line as well. So 5, maybe 6 trucks up there. Add Nofsker to that list. Look at Chuck McClure there working the side draft, pinning down the 31 of Bernie Mobbs, trying to make that top line work. Oh, got a couple of trucks on the apron there out of 4. That was Robbie Nisus and Cy Jones. Got a little out of shape, but they both kept it pointed in the right direction.
Still single file up front. Grant is just pushing Donnie. I mean, they are nose to tail, and they're actually keeping a gap between them and Crivello. That's you don't usually see that.
Have a 2-truck tandem here for the 77 and the 88. Interesting to see if with that gap, if Crivello is able to get a run, would he take it somewhere? And if he did try to make a move, would Seminara, DeSpirito, Shelton and company be willing to go with him? Donnie, of course, looking for his first win on the season. Crivello the same. Also the same there for Bob Seminara, Jessica Shelton, even Milt Surratt back there. How about the 80? Currently scored in the 7th position, was a playoff contender last season, made it in via points, and of course, we documented a couple of weeks ago. We hadn't seen him for about 3-4 weeks due to some medical problems. Great to see him back in the field. He had an early exit from last week's race, but doing well here tonight inside the top 10.
Absolutely. I've known Milt for quite a long time, and it's really good to see him back because that was, pretty touch and go with what he had happen, and I'm glad to see him back. Boy, Chuck's doing some dive bombing there. Look at that.
Boy, when I said battering ram, I didn't mean it literally, but that's exactly what he's doing. Slicing and dicing his way from top to middle, middle to bottom, and Jeremy Jeffries is saying, yeah, come on, Chuck, wherever you go, I'll go with you.
Right, I got to look, see if there's a chain tied between those two trucks because they are just everywhere one goes, the other goes.
Of course, Chuck McClure, a former champion in his own right. He knows how to get it done here in this series, and gotta wonder of the final 4 drivers, how many donned the diplomatic suits and said to some of those that weren't battling for the championship, hey, you willing to work with me here? Get me up to the front? It might even be a case here of Jeremy Jeffries saying to Chuck McClure, hey, I'll push you to a victory here in the finale as long as I finish second.
Absolutely. I mean, that'll win you a championship right there. And I like to see those two trucks running together. I like those. That's 2 trucks I painted, Seth, that Jack Daniels, Gentleman Jack, for Chuck, and that Oreo truck for Jeremy Jeffries. I got a few of them out here. I like to talk about them. It's a lot of fun. I enjoy doing it for people. I know you do it too. They look good together.
I mean, with the moves we just saw them made, are there any trucks that you paint that aren't fast?
Well, I'd like to think I've got something to do with it. That's sure. Maybe I can start charging in if they found out I was fast when I painted them.
Well, we don't see that inside line move up to the front very often. Normally, if anything, they're able to hold in touch with the middle line, which is the preferred lane here. But McClure, Jeffries, they've now picked up Bob Dixon, got Terry Bombard back there. They're trying to make something happen on that inside line, and they kind of have to, right? Because the top 5, top 6, they're not going to give up that middle line.
Oh no, they're going to stay locked together right there all the way to probably pit stops or until it's time to get down so they can get ready to pit. They're going to stay right there. That is the fast line around this track, but they are doing pretty well. They're holding their own. They probably need a few more trucks, and I think they can make their way up there. If that third line starts coming out there, that'll help them too.
Now, it is interesting Chuck McClure being the one to lead this line because he was only one of, I think, 5 or 6 drivers that came down under the second lap of pacing under our only caution and topped off the fuel tank again. So he'd be a little bit better on fuel, which might be why he's electing to be the one out in clean air. And all of a sudden, Jeff Crivello looks around and says, where'd all my drafting help go? Because Garrett, Wesley, Seminara, and Despirito, they've all gone down to the double yellow line in front of McClure.
Yeah, he blinked and they went around him and under him and in front of him, dove down. He's just out there like, hey, what did I do wrong?
Johnny Garrett now and Grant Wesley trying to keep Bob Seminara at bay. That battle for second place is a battle for the championship. Jeremy Jeffries is only a few trucks back as well. And if you're wondering about that for Brian Schilling, he's still mired back outside the top 20. 21st is where he is currently positioned. He's still got Josh Metallic with him. The question is, though, for that Ford truck, is he riding, or that amount of time that they shut the engine off, is that what's affecting his forward progress?
That's a great question. I wish I had a way to talk to him, but I just can't imagine he's not being able to make his way up a little, because he had some guys back there with him, and they are now up in about, to 5th position, 6th position, Chuck and Jeremy.
Well, he is right now on the inside line. Looked like he had Mark Paglia with him, so maybe trying to see if the shorter way around the racetrack will help him in moving up through the field. Here, and these drivers are anywhere from 7 to 10 laps away from making a green flag pit stop, and we've seen so many times this season that Talladega, if it doesn't get you one way, it'll get you another. We've seen drivers caught up in the big ones, in the big wrecks, but we've seen maybe even more drivers fall prey to pit road speeding penalties. Now, this is the early going. If you're one of the final 4 drivers and you get a speeding penalty, you got a good chunk of race still left to maybe catch a caution, maybe be able to stay on the lead lap. But Execution, execution, execution. Doesn't matter what pit stop it is. If you're a Final Four contender, you've got to be picture perfect from cone to cone.
Oh, absolutely. And sometimes, as I can attest to, sometimes it's out of your hands. I believe it's been documented, went into the pits last week and got hit entering pits and knocked me into the grass, and I got a illegal pit entrance and had a 30-second penalty. And without that penalty, I'm one of the top 4 guys tonight. And so that it's sometimes it's in your hands and sometimes it's not. But it is what it is. We're rolling on. And yes, these guys, you got to stop. You got to make a good stop. You got to make a clean stop. Don't speed, because speeding here, as you said, that'll put you a lap down and out of it, just like that.
Jeremy Jeffries trying to make something happen. He tried before, had to tuck back in line. Bob Dixon led him back on the inside. Now McClure's going to jump up there. Terry Bombard and Dave Melson trying to see if they can challenge these top 4 who have had a stranglehold on 1st through 4th for the last 10 laps or so. Of course, with pit stops looming also, we talk about the pressure that there is for the drivers battling for the championship, but to the point you were talking about, the mistakes that aren't necessarily yours coming to pit lane, how difficult is that for these other 25 non-playoff drivers? Because they certainly don't want to mess up the race of somebody that's a championship contender, but at the same time, it's a super speedway. Mistakes happen.
Absolutely. I mean, nobody wants to cause anybody anything. You want to have everybody wants to go in and come out clean. But yes, if you take somebody out, it's going to be tough on you, because you knock somebody out of a championship that they've worked all season for. So I'm sure they're going to mind their P's and Q's. I hope so. I don't want to see anybody get taken out like what happened to me last week. That was really is a bum. The guy apologized. I accepted it. I know he didn't do it on purpose, and nobody's going to do it tonight on purpose.
We've got 3 of our championship 4 inside of the top 5 right there. Wesley in the 88, Seminara in the 712, and the 8 of Jeremy Jeffries. And looks like the 77's coming to pit lane. I did see the radios lighten up. Garrett, as well as Seminara and Despirito, all coming down together. Only 3 cars, and I did notice Brian Schilling was up to 15th, making his way towards the front on that inside line. So maybe, just maybe, there's a little bit of fight left in that Square D Dodge.
Oh yeah, I see him now. He's up there. Got looks like, I think he's behind John Godfrey, and looks like Greg Palmer right behind him. So that's some fast trucks. He can get himself up there. I believe that's the 3. Is that the only 3 trucks that stayed out on that first pit stop? Seth, do you know?
I believe that. Well, let me double check. Jeff Crivello was the other, so there were 4. 56 is yet to come to pit road. But yeah, that was 3 of the 4 that did not come to pit road under that first and only caution up to this point.
10-4. I knew I could hear somebody warming up their air guns on pit road, but I wasn't sure. Didn't sound like a whole bunch. So it's good to see those guys to make it in there. Here they come out. One of them got a jump. Looks like Joe and Donnie a little lagging behind a little bit. Bob got a nice pit stop.
Wait for the 24 and the 77 to pick him up, and here comes the rest of the field looking to put them a lap down. This group of drivers, this remaining pack, they're only about 3 laps away from when they're going to have to come to pit road.
Absolutely. Looks like they're making their way around Joe and Donnie. Bob's out there, bless his heart, by himself.
That could be trouble when things cycle around here. Not coming off of pit road with any drafting help. He's going to yield to the top side. He'll go a lap down. Now, these 3 drivers that came to pit road, yes, they're -1 at this point in time, but if we get the entire cycle of pit stops under green flag conditions, we should have all 3 of those drivers back in the lead lap. The big question mark is, where are they going to be, though? Because they came to pit road while in the lead pack. They might not necessarily be in the lead pack when all is said and done.
They've got to find each other. I'm trying to look now to see where they are, if they're anywhere near together, each other. But they've got to find each other quick and be able to get that 3-truck draft going, or they'll lose some time when the leaders come out.
Got some radios lighting up. Do we have some pitters? Yes, we do.
Got a couple.
Chuck McClure in the 17. A little surprising there. I would have thought he'd have been one of the last ones to pit road since he had
Got a wreck.
topped off the fuel tank. Oh, Nate Balser. up into the wall. No caution, though. You see that the caution lights are still green.
Yeah,
Oh,
oh,
and
he's
now he goes
spinning.
around again. There's no caution because there's no oncoming traffic, even though that is on the racing surface. The nearest truck to him is on the back straightaway, so unlikely that a caution will be thrown for that.
He's up and moving now, so everything's. I agree. No caution.
McClure, Milt Surratt, Paglia, Tom Dixon, Nofsker, Brian Schilling, one of our final four. Wayne Pribnow all on pit lane this time. And let's see some more hands out the window. Here comes Jeremy Jeffries, Grant Wesley. Just about everybody else in this lead group. 3 wide, almost 4 wide in the middle of that pack coming to pit lane, but they made it.
And that's good to see. Got Joe and Donnie together. Bob's still a little bit behind them, so they're not all three nose to tail. Some of these guys are coming out. Cannon, Nofsker, I see them. They're going to catch up to them, but it's going to be interesting to see what kind of packs we got.
Love to know what kind of a fuel tank Jeff Crivello has, because he made it really far. He went another 3-4 laps further than the 4 of Seminara, Despirito, and Garrett, and he had not come to pit road. That was his first pit stop of the day, so he was able to do some major clutching, I guess, under the pacing laps, because he went 23 laps on a tank of fuel. Normally we hear the max is 21.
Yeah, that's pretty impressive. He was doing some great clutching, that's for sure. I could have used his clutch last year for the championship.
Like McClure and Milt Surratt, they're trying as up-to-speed trucks to maybe cycle to the front, but you see a bunch of drivers coming off of pit lane ahead of them. I don't know if they'll necessarily be the top 2. I think it's going to be Grant Wesley and Jeremy Jeffries nose to tail here, bringing Dave Melson along as the top 3 once things cycle around. And again, once things finally get cycled, we'll update where the final 4 contenders are running. But for the moment, it's looking like it's the Wesley versus Jeremy Jeffries show.
Yeah, those guys are teammates, so it's going to be interesting to see how it works out at the end with those guys.
Oh, there's no teammates, right, at the end of a super speedway race, especially a championship race.
Yeah, touche.
Got McClure trying to work his way up through the top 5 by himself. Diving to the inside of Jessica Shelton. No drafting help there. Oh, forces his way into the 48.
Wow.
Shelton into the wall. Going to drop from 4th back to, looks like, 6th. Interesting to see if there's any fallout from that. I mean, it wasn't even clear. And now we've got the top 7, it looks like, all in a single file line. Josh Metallic trying to latch on, so we might have an 8-car pack. And now as they cross the line, looks like Seminara is 17th based off of scoring. And the 4 of Brian Schilling, he's right now in the 10th position. He's up at the front of this 2nd pack, along with Greg Palmer, Mark Paglia, and the 56 of Jeff Crivello, who is apparently a lap down. So I'm almost wondering if he might have lost the draft on that final run there to that pit stop. Subsequently, he is the only truck 1 lap down in the 29th position.
He's a lap down right now, but he's Brian Schilling's best friend right now. Well, I say that. They're pulling away from Brian. I just think Brian may have a little bit of damage. He just doesn't seem like he can keep up like he wants to. Maybe, I don't know.
Trying to squint my eyes, trying to see that damage that might be affecting him, and I just do not see it. Of course, series runs with moderate damage, so it may not necessarily be something that's visible. Gets a nice run there on the back straightaway, though. Going to get to the inside of Jeff Crivello. Mark Paglia tucked right up there to the back of that Ford truck. At this point in time, if you're having the issue like Brian Schilling is, are you just basically telling whatever truck's behind you, hey, don't worry if you wreck me, you're doing your best, just keep locked in my bumper, because that's what I need to be able to stay up in this lead pack?
Absolutely. You just take it and say, hey, you're trying to help me. I get it. I'm not going to be mad. Push me for all it's worth, because I've got to go. I can't wait. I've got to get up there.
Josh Metallic trying to make something happen there on the top line, but nobody is going to venture to that outside line here. They all stay single file, so He crossed the line last time by in the 9th position. He's going to drop back behind the 55 of Ken Roberts, so he'll be back to 14th. Like we've got 14, maybe 15 trucks up in this lead pack. The 23 of Doug Hewlick trying to stay in touch, but a number of drivers got split up from this lead pack. We got a group of about 4 behind them of Despirito, Garrett, Bob Seminara, and I believe they have picked up Glenn Harris, and they got another group behind them of Terry Bombard and David Cannon. So a lot of drivers having some issues on pit road, and not necessarily issues in terms of making contact or spinning, but a lot of times if you're in the mid-pack to rear of the field and there's a big group of trucks that come to pit lane, having to brake for somebody else can really stifle just how fast your green flag pit stop really is.
Oh, absolutely. Just breaking for anything out here and somebody else does it, that costs you. It's crazy. It's why we come here. It's why we do this. Get out there, work that draft, work with your teammates, work with anybody, do what you can. But yeah, touching that brake, burping that throttle, sometimes you lose the draft and you're just riding around at that point.
I'm trying to crunch the numbers here, and I believe that these drivers, I'm trying to still do the calculations on Garrett, Seminara, and Despirito, but I believe that all the drivers that came to pit road of this big group, this lead pack, they should be able to make it the rest of the way on one more pit stop, but it's going to be borderline there for those 3 that we saw go off sequence, taking that track position in the early going after the first caution. Whether they can make it on one more pit stop, they could be very close to running out of fuel in the final 5 laps or so if this thing remains under green to the checkered flag.
Absolutely, and they're running hard. Just those three trucks together, I promise you, you're using more fuel than the guys up there running in that 10, 15 truck pack.
See them right there. They've picked up the lap truck of Nate Balser. Looks like Bob Dixon, the 143, has also gone a lap down, so it would be Dixon and Crivello in the free pass positions. 2 lucky dogs per caution should we see another yellow flag. And speaking of caution, I mean, if you're Bob Seminara right now, you went with the strategy of trying to be out ahead of the mayhem. It hasn't worked out. You're now multiple spots behind even the closest next Final Four competitor, which would be Brian Schilling up in the 9th spot. Do you need a caution to get back into this thing? Is there any conceivable way for you to be back in this championship hunt if a caution does not come out between now and the end of the race?
I'm showing them to be about 5, maybe 5.5 seconds behind right now. You absolutely got to have a caution to make that up. Or you've got to have about 15 other trucks have bad pit stops, the next green flag pit stops. But they need a caution to get back up there with that group. There's no way they're going to run them down. And pit strategy, I don't think would be able to make up that 5 seconds, because the only way you can do that is not take as much fuel, and that's what they need.
And do not be deceived, just because these drivers up at the front are running single file, that doesn't necessarily mean that a caution could not happen. A lot of times, single file racing can bring up the odds of a yellow flag coming out even more maybe than double file and 3-wide racing, in the fact that everybody's running the same identical line, and so there's going to be a lot of checkup for that 3rd, 4th, 5th truck in line.
Oh, absolutely. Plus, we had several trucks spinning, and spinning may have turned those motors backwards, so there could be an engine expire at any moment that would bring out the caution. There's all sorts of opportunities for cautions here at Talladega.
Well, this season, Grant Wesley's gone to victory lane 3 times. He doesn't have to win this race to win the championship, but certainly would like to be a 4-time winner here in a back-to-back championship run. Jeremy Jeffries right behind him there. Mentioned the fact he's the only one of the championship competitors that has not previously won a championship in this series. And these 2 right now have some pretty good defenders behind them as well. Dave Melson's been working with them all night long. Chuck McClure sliced and diced his way up here to the 4th position. So if those other drivers behind are going to try and break them up, they're going to have their work cut out for them.
Oh, absolutely. Those guys up there run really good together. Chuck, as we seen earlier, was working with Jeremy. The 038 of Melson likes to work with Jeremy and Grant also, so it'll be interesting to see who he chooses if it comes down to that. But those 4 trucks, that wouldn't surprise me to see them just to stay all together for quite a while.
So far, Grant Wesley has led the most laps here tonight, 17 in total. Donnie Garrett has led 12. And then only a few others have been out in front here this evening. 2 laps led for Jessica Shelton and 3 laps led for Bob Seminara. So not a whole lot of lead changes here, at least in the first half of this race. But now, as they hit the line, next time by 30 laps to go. So the aggressiveness, that wick's going to get turned up just a little bit more. We got contact.
Whoa.
Bernie Mobs up into the wall. Shelton collected. Greg Palmer, the big one is struck, and look out, championship contenders that might have been in the middle of the pack as that leaf filter Dodge is all torn up. It's amazing that thing came back on all 4 wheels.
Wow. That was, as you were saying, we weren't really 2 or 3 wide there, just barely. And here we are with the caution. Helps Bob Seminara.
I believe the contact was between McClure and the 17 and the 31 of Mobs. I just caught the tail end of it when I saw the 31 sideways. Frozen field as they make their way back to the caution, and all of a sudden this puts Seminara, as you mentioned, right back into the championship picture. And I believe with this caution, yeah, everybody, even if they come to pit road now, nobody is going to be able to make it the rest of the way. So there's still one more pit stop, whether it be under caution or whether it be under green, in the future of every driver in this field.
Yeah, looks like get to go back. They'll do another pit stop. Probably, what do you think, 1 can the next time? Not this time. It would be obviously 2 full cans. But next time, I think when they come around, might be a 1 can stop.
I think you'd be right. Yeah, we'd be looking roughly around somewhere between 58 to 60 that they come down pit road. Yeah, I don't see why you'd take any more than a can. Maybe even a half can if you're gutsy.
Yes, fuel means a lot when those championship races. Trust me, I know.
Take a look and see what happened here into turn 1. The battle for the 4th position. We mentioned the fact that top 4 were going to be playing defense if anyone behind tried to make a move. Here it was through the tri-oval. Mobs gets a good push from Shelton. Godfrey goes up there as well. Take a look at the contact here. Boy, almost looks like the 17 was coming up to defend. The 31 was coming down to pinch. And unfortunately, both wanted the same piece of real estate. That's a wild ride there for Mobs. Some pretty good damage there for Shelton in the 48 as well.
I believe Greg Palmer took a beating there too as well.
A lot of drivers were in that outside line with nowhere to go after the 31 went sideways. Here's another look at it. Godfrey just able to slip through. And there was Brian Schilling. You saw him. He had to go to the apron, but he avoided it all. And fortunately for Bob Seminara, I guess the one good thing was he was so far back that the wreck had already sorted itself out by the time he came on the scene.
Oh, right, absolutely. I see some trucks getting tied up on pit roads, getting a little tight coming off. Schilling was one of them, but everybody's got straight and going.
Wesley going to win the battle off of pit road. Jeremy Jeffries will follow him. Like it was Chuck McClure, Ken Roberts, and John Godfrey going to be the top 5 when we go back green. Second caution of the day. Bob Dixon, Jeff Crivello, they were the first 2 a lap down, so they'll get the free pass here under this caution, which should have us with 28 of the 29 drivers on the lead lap. 31 of Bernie Mobs is still out there running, so if he does not retire, then we should still have all the drivers that took the green to start this race continue this race into the second half of our season finale. And of course as well, drivers here tonight trying to carry some momentum into the All-Star race, the Happy Holidays 200 for the 2022 year. That's going to be this coming Monday, December 19th at Michigan Next Till Winter. Should be a good one. I mean, obviously, a little bit of a mix there, right? For Speedway drivers and Super Speedway drivers. Michigan Auto Club, those 2-mile tracks seem to have those characteristics.
Absolutely. You got run about 5 nights a week here at Rolling Thunder, and there's some guys that usually run 2 or 3 nights a week that you never see here, and vice versa. There's some guys here that you typically don't see during the week at those other tracks. But Monday night, I'm expecting to see everybody grouped together having a good time. I'm looking forward to it.
Saw an interesting call right there. 17 of Chuck McClure came down pit road. Mark Paglia and championship contender Brian Schilling electing to come down pit lane. And remember back to last season's season opener, Chuck McClure and Brian Schilling finished first and second on fumes. So what kind of fuel strategy are they working out right now, do you think?
I think Chuck, if I'm not mistaken, I think Chuck just drove through. I don't know if I seen him stop. Let me take a look.
Wondering if maybe pitting second time might have possibly been the claimee of the most recent yellow flag. Of course, that's the penalty system here in RTG. Come down pit road under the second lap of pacing and drop to the rear of the field. That might have been the case there for the 17.
Yeah, he didn't stop. He actually thought about it, looked like, but then just kept going. So I think you're right.
Chuck's going to drop back. Looks like around the 16th position. But he will have Mark Paglia, Brian Schilling, who did take service, right behind him. Robbie Nisus stays out an extra lap. He'll probably be on pit road this next time by, but getting himself a bonus point. Try and finish a little bit higher with that bonus point in the final season standings.
Absolutely. I think Chuck may have sped intentionally to put himself in the back because he's, or at least looks like he got a speed ticket because he's slowly making his way to the back.
The 143 and the 56, Dixon and Crivello. They're up on the top side since they were the free pass drivers. When the lights go out atop the pace truck, they'll be able to drive around and get their laps back. So as we reset here, if the 54 of Robbie Nisus does come to pit lane, as we're assuming he will, it'll turn the lead over to Grant Wesley. Jeremy Jeffries will be to his outside in second. We've seen them nose to tail. Joe Logano coined the phrase the okie dokie of one driver letting the other driver in. Pretty interesting to see if they're able to kind of choreograph that here and get back lined up. Drivers will try and make sure that doesn't happen. Third place, Ken Roberts. Fourth place, John Godfrey. Dave Melson is going to complete the top five. Sixth, Doug Hewlick. Seventh will be Josh Metallic. Eighth, Terry Bombard. We haven't mentioned Bobby Farrell's name here tonight yet. He's up in the ninth position at 92, and David Cannon's going to complete the top 10. For the rest of the final four competitors outside of Wesley and Jeremy Jeffries, it looks like Brian Schilling, he will restart in 17th, and Bob Seminaro will restart in 20th. But now with everybody bunched back up, everybody of that final four have an equal shot. Once again, this restart's going to be with 26 laps to go.
Absolutely. The whole ball game has changed now with Seminara creeping back in the picture because that puts everybody back in it. That wouldn't surprise me if Schilling and Seminara don't find each other somehow so they can work together to get up there with Grant and Jeremy.
It was a couple of weeks ago, we ended up seeing some late race drama with drivers having to dive to pit lane in the last 2 or 3 laps of that race. Right now, based off of calculations, these drivers, if we go green to the checkers, they'll be having to make that final pit stop if they stretch it as far as they possibly can. Somewhere in the vicinity of 6 to 7 laps to go. So talk about a money stop with a championship hanging in the balance.
Absolutely. And 6 to 7 laps to go, that's going to be one can. I don't think a half a can will make that. So it'll be one can stop. I doubt anybody will get tires. It'll just be throw me some gas in it. Let's get to the end and go. I want to say it's good to see John Godfrey up there running good. Ken Roberts, he's had a rough year in that Wicked Wire Chevrolet. It's another paint I did, by the way. It's good to see some guys up there. Like you said, Doug Hewlick's up there. Some guys having some good nights. It's good to see.
And Roberts, a couple of seasons ago, was a winner and was able to make his way into the playoffs. Been a long time since we've seen John Godfrey go to victory lane here in this series. Talk about the kind of championship winless spells for drivers like Brian Schilling and Bob Seminara. A lot of drivers here in the field with winless spells and would like to be able to quench that here tonight. As through the tri-oval they make their way, Grant Wesley and Jeremy Jeffries, the front row. The drivers are trying to figure out, are they racing to the final pit stop, or will we maybe see the caution fly a couple more times here tonight before all is said and done? As up through the gears, Jeremy Jeffries, let's see if he backs off a little bit, lets the 88 up in line here going into 1 and 2, and Almost looks like that might be the case. We'll see if the 88 migrates his way up. And, well, he thought about it, and he will. He's actually going to bring Ken Roberts with him. So how about that? A double okie dokie.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah, they're going to get a nice little run off that top. Melson, he's just got Josh and Donnie there on the inside, so I expect to see that fall back a little bit. But Schilling's coming up. He's trying to get back up there. Got Jessica Shelton on his rear bumper.
Right now, Brian is scored in the 14th position. At least that's where he was scored last time by. He might crack the top 10 here next time they hit the stripe, but trying to find some drafting help on that inside line. And it definitely looks like whatever the aero damage he's dealing with, it's affecting his ability to be able to draft up to the truck in front of him. He's able to keep pretty good momentum if he has someone tucked in behind him, but you really kind of need that forward drive and that rear pushing to be able to move your way forward.
Absolutely. I'm willing to bet he is pushing his foot, his pedals through the floorboard, trying to make something happen. He's got a truck pulled down in front of him, the Batman number 45 of Tom Dixon. Maybe that'll help him. Maybe that'll help him pull up there some.
How about this? A move on the back straightaway. Jeremy Jeffries shifts from the middle to the inside line to pick up Dave Melson. So I guess we've hit the point now where the teammates, they were willing to work together to stay at the front, but now it's time to battle.
Oh, absolutely. It's getting closer and closer to trophy hoisting time. So business is going to pick up.
He's making some good momentum on that inside line. He's been able to draw even with Grant Wesley. I mean, look at the difference in trucks. 4 on the bottom. You had about 7, 8 lined up in that middle line. The shorter way around the racetrack working for Jeremy Jeffries, even though they didn't have the numbers game. Now they start to lose a little bit of ground on the straightaway, but that's just how it kind of works here at Talladega. Inside line gets the advantage going into the corner through the center, then that outside line powers back off the corner and onto the straightaway.
Absolutely, and I'll say Schilling has hooked up on the back bumper of Bob Seminara in the back. I kind of expected that to happen with Spirito, because those guys know how to get to the front. And they'll pull Schilling along if he's capable. There are runs. Everybody's going to start taking their runs. It's time to, if you get a chance, you go, and it's getting that time. I see guys in the back going 3 wide, trying. Business is picking up, as I said a little bit ago.
A lot of movement up here at the front. Dave Melson, he was kind of shifting around bottom to top in that inside line that last time through 1 and 2. Josh Metallic doing the same. These drivers trying to keep these bumpers lined up as well as they can. And I've mentioned the fact that with super speedway racing, it's amazing how different storylines just seem to work themselves out. We've seen so many times in the now ended a bracket challenge that took place this season. A lot of the different competitors from each week would find themselves side by side for position. Well, take a look at who's battling for the lead. Jeremy Jeffries and Grant Wesley. Oh yeah, by the way, your 2 latest winners back in that round of 8.
Absolutely. Those guys they're really good. They're in the Final 4 because they're really good, and they've got some good trucks behind them. They know how to win here. They know how to race here, so I'm not surprised at all. I hate Schilling's having his trouble. Looks like Bob is slowly trying to make his way back up there, but he's out there by himself. But those 2 guys up front, they know what they're doing. They know how to win. Would surprise me to see them battling it out all the way to the end.
Manera just got freight train there. You see him up on the top side. Looks like DeSpirito's trying to jump up there with him. He was 16th last time by, and we saw Brian Schilling. He was up inside the top 10. He's now fallen back to the 4th position, and unfortunately, we've made it 45 laps, so we had everybody still running, but we now have our first retiree out of the race. Looks like the 92 of Brian Schilling rather Bobby Farrell. I'll get the name right eventually. He came to pit lane, and he has made the left-hand turn to the garage, so he will be finishing out tonight's season finale in the 29th position.
Hey, Jeff and Bobby, he's having a good run. And does it say what happened?
According to the telemetry, it's saying a wheel problem, so I'm not necessarily certain how to read that one.
Interesting.
I didn't see any smoke or anything like anyone had a solo spin that might have been off the racing surface or anything like that. So I'm not exactly certain what it was that drew him to pit lane and forced him to retire early. But as you mentioned, was having a great run, restarted this race up inside of the top 10. I think he was 6th on that last restart.
Oh, that's Greg Palmer in the 22 is taking his truck behind the wall. The 92 is still on the track
Oh, you're
running by
right.
himself.
Wow,
Yeah.
I can't say the right name and I can't read the right name. My goodness, it's all falling apart.
Hey, you got a lot going on right there in the control booth. That's it for sure. But yeah, Greg Palmer was
Oh,
involved in
Donnie
that last wreck.
Garrett on the apron. Sorry to cut you off. He had a very shallow entry into turn 3. Unfortunately, Milt Surratt let him back in. I don't know what led to that, but we very nearly had caution number 3.
Wow, I missed that. I was still, for some reason, I was looking at Bobby Farrell. I'm going to rewind and take a look at that. That sounded exciting.
Going back to the Greg Palmer going to the garage area. Remember, he was involved in that wreck that had Jessica Shelton and Bernie Mobbs as well, so you have to wonder if maybe damage sustained from that off the pace. He decided to just cut his losses and bring it to pit road and maybe just observe along with the rest of us the finish of this race. But that's a tough break there, Greg. Been a very consistent driver this year. He was in the conversation to maybe nab a playoff spot near the end of the regular season, came up just short, and was certainly looking to end off season 57 a lot better than that here tonight.
Absolutely. Boy, that's really changed up our 2x2 that we had there for about 4 or 5 rows. That little skirmish or whatever happened to Donnie that sent him down to the inside. It's kind of broken it up, but Seminaire Schilling's just, and he's got to have trouble. He's just not keeping up.
712 of Seminaire, there he is. Last time by, he was scored in 14th. Right now running behind Chuck McClure in the 17. McClure has broken up the 24 in the 712 at this point in time. You still got Dave Melson down there. Poor guy, along with Josh Metallic, they have not been able to make their way up to that middle groove. They've been stuck in that inside line for the last 5-6 laps or so.
Man, that's a lonely, awful feeling when you're down there on the inside or the high side. When that happens and you're getting freight trained, there's absolutely nothing you can do. It's a terrible feeling.
There's the 92 of Bobby Farrell. Just saw him in the last portion of that shot as the leaders made their way through the tri-oval. He's only a couple of corners away from being put a lap down in that 92 truck. So I don't remember seeing him get involved in any wreck. I don't know what it was that had him so far off the pace, but now he's going to have to try and merge his way in with this lead group. The good news for him right now is there's only one driver that is a lap down besides him, and that is Nate Balzer. So Farrell would be in a lucky dog position if we were to get a caution.
We got a truck in the wall. Looks like Robbie Nisus is in the wall. No caution. Josh was just down on the apron in turn 4, and then Robbie Nisus went to the wall. I'm not really sure what happened there.
No caution as Nisus keeps the thing rolling, but he will certainly lose the draft. You can see already the field going into turn 1, and that U.S. Navy machine was crossing the start-finish line, so he's going to need a caution to come out to be able to bunch back up with the rest of the field. As up front, the roles have reversed from the last green flag run. Before, it was Jeremy Jeffries pushing Grant Wesley. Now, it's Jeremy Jeffries being pushed by Grant Wesley, and in this kind of a scenario, kind of projecting if we do end up having that final pit stop under green flag conditions, do you want to be that lead truck or do you want to be that second place truck?
Man, it's tough to say, but Grant did a great job last week, being the lead truck and holding everybody off. So I'm going to have to say the lead truck, especially when you got some fast trucks behind you. Like you take John Godfrey back there, he's just going to get a good finish. Him and Ken Roberts both. They've had fairly tough seasons, so one of them's going to be pushed by them if it stays this way till the end. So I'd probably want to be the front just so I could try to block a little bit.
Now, we mentioned this before they even took the green flag. To win the championship, you don't have to win this race. It's not a must-win scenario. You just have to finish higher than the rest of your 3 championship competitors. Look at some of the names we've got here, finishing out the top 5 and even back through the top 10. Godfrey, right behind Ken Roberts in 3rd and 4th. Doug Hulick's now up to 5th. Terry Bombard runs 6th. David Cannon's in 7th. Harris and Garrett in 8th and 9th. I mean, if it comes down to it, they're not going to care about Jeffries and Wesley battling for the championship. They're going to say, all right, you guys have your own battle, but we want this checkered flag.
Absolutely. That's like you said, you don't have to win, just finish ahead. So, it wouldn't surprise me at all to see Ken and John duck out. Those guys do race good together. To see if they can, like you say, hoist the smaller trophy, if you will, for this race.
Last time by, Seminara was scored in 12th, Brian Schilling in 16th. Good news is they're all still in this lead group, so it may come down to pit road to be that deciding factor into who's going to be the champion at the end of the night and who will not. Ended up seeing really all 4 of these drivers during the course of this season. They've done a great job of avoiding the speeding police. They've been able to capitalize with maximum effort pit stops, been able to gain track position on green flag pit stops, and tonight may be the most important green flag stop of their life. That is if we even get it, because again, they're still projected another 7-8 laps before they even have to think about that. Still plenty of time for the 3rd caution of the night to fly.
Yeah, absolutely. They're about to, 5 or 6 laps away. I think there's a pit crew now warming up, getting ready. I think Cy Jones is fixing to pull out and duck down. There he goes. Tom Dixon's following him.
Couple of drivers going a little bit off sequence, maybe planning that we might have a caution, and if so, they could stay on the lead lap, stay out, and maybe be up at the front on the final restart of the night. And now we're seeing a lot of the leaders migrate down to the inside line. That's usually an indication that they're not too far away from when they're going to be coming to pit road, wanting that easier access onto pit lane rather than having to cross 2-3 lanes of traffic to do so.
Absolutely. The pit crews, you can see them. They're starting to warm up those air guns. You can hear them whining. You can see the tires being set on the wall just in case they won't. Pit crews are getting ready. It's this is party time now. It's coming down to you can win or lose the championship.
Could be the money stop coming up here. We've seen pit stops work their magic into who goes to victory lane all season long. No more important a pit stop than here for drivers like Jeffries, Grant Wesley, Bob Seminara, and Brian Schilling, who is still in this thing because stranger things have happened at Talladega. Yes, he may be off the pace, but he's still in this lead pack. He's still in the hunt. He can see Bob Seminara, who's only 1 truck ahead of him. That's Milt Surratt that's separating those two. So those guys might be relying on maybe the top 2 to make a mistake, may be able to execute a pit stop a little bit better, and might have some drivers pitting now. Here we go.
Yeah, here we go. Got several coming in.
We got Bob Dixon coming to pit road just ahead of him, and Ken Roberts is in the wall. I think he was able to get it straightened out. Nobody hit him. But some varying strategy here. You got 2 of your championship 4 coming down pit road this time. The 8 and the 88. The 712 and the 4 elected to stay out a little longer.
Yeah, right now I'd say Schilling's probably trying everything he can do to make something happen. He's got to do something different because I don't think he's got the truck tonight to do it. But you never know.
Tom
He
Dixon
could be.
and Cy Jones just saw them go a lap down after they came to pit road a couple laps ago.
Yeah, Schilling may be playing possum. Who knows? Maybe he wants to think his truck's trash, and he goes out there and blows them away here shortly.
Here comes group number 2, including Seminara and Schilling. And Schilling's going to lock up the brakes and nearly spins the thing out, but he's going to lose some positions as a result of that. Nofsker also nearly binned it there into that inside wall at pit road entry.
That's crazy to watch, isn't it, man? It's hard to watch. I'm glad when I'm out there racing, I can't see all that.
I mean, we're up here in the booth, and my heart rate goes up every time I see them nearly spin out. I can only imagine what it's like down in the cockpit of these things.
Oh, man, yeah. I'm trying to look at the leaders. Looks like it's Jeremy and Grant got really good pit stops, and they're out there by themselves out front as
really
the other
did.
group comes off pit road.
I mean, they've got about 10, 11 truck lengths back to Terry Bombard, who right now I think would cycle around to 3rd. And then you got a group behind them, Doug Hewlick, Ken Roberts, David Cannon. And right there, well, not yet. Right here, I believe, is the pass for the lead. And look at this scenario. Wesley and Jeffries will be the top 2. And then you've got Garrett, DeSpirito, and Seminara. The Florida boys are lined up in 3rd through 5th. That's where they should be once they cross the start-finish line this next time by. We're getting into the nitty-gritty now, less than 10 to go. We're going to start to see some blocks thrown, I get the feeling.
Oh, absolutely. And I believe Donnie and Joe and Bob work really well together. It wouldn't surprise me to see them hook up. Jeremy and Grant, though, they can't help each other. They can, but they can't. One of them's got to do something. Well, there goes Donnie pulling out for the lead now, or to try to pull Bob up there.
And he's got Despirito and Seminara with him. And then look behind them. You got Nofsker, Paglia, and Metallic working together. McClure's trying to push Brian Schilling up into this mix. We could have all of our final four in this lead pack here when they come around to the stripe next time by to receive 7 laps to go.
Oh, Schilling's got some guys not staying with him. They're diving under him. That's going to hurt him a little bit. But we got plenty of time, plenty of time. Looks like he's catching the draft with Josh now, so maybe he can get up there. That'd be great. I'd like to see all 4 of them in the top 5 or 6. That'd be awesome.
Mark Paglia moves up to try and help Schilling, who gets loose after he had McClure into the back of him. Nice save there by Brian Schilling, but that's all the momentum he was carrying lost, and now he's freight train to the top side.
He's got some guys pulled in behind him. I can't see whether it's Chuck. And is that Terry Bombard, I believe?
That is. Chuck McClure's doing all he can. He's wearing out the bumper of that Ford truck, trying to get him up there into this hunt.
That's like we talked about earlier. You know, push me hard. If you wreck me, so be it. But I've got to get up there some way, somehow. Time's ticking.
And look at this battle at the front. You've got Wesley, Seminara, and Jeffries mixing it up in between Despirito, Garrett, Metallic, and Paglia. You got drivers that want to win the race. You got drivers that want to win the championship. Something's got to give here at some point as we're coming to the line for 6 laps to go in the season finale.
Man, I'm on the edge of my seat. This is great. I look at it, 3 of them right there. Top, what, 6, 7?
Oh, Paglia, he almost got into the right rear quarter panel of Josh Metallic there. They were nearly 3 wide. Garrett's doing all he can do to tow Joe Despirito and Bob Seminara in that top line, and that's keeping Seminara and Wesley side by side for 3rd. Now Seminara clears. He'll jump to the inside line, try and block the 88. Now he's got to worry about Jeffries, who might pull up to driver's right.
Man, this is I'm surprised he did that. I thought he might just stay behind Joe and Donnie, but it looks like, hey, if he gets in front of Grant and he's staying in front of Jeremy, that's all that matters.
And look at lane number 3. Ken Roberts is bringing Brian Schilling into the party. Jeffries up to throw a block on that 3rd line.
That's a good move by Jeremy right there.
Where does Donnie Garrett block? Because now he's got Seminara to his inside. He's about to have Jeffries to his outside. How about 3 wide for the lead here with less than 5 to go?
Bob Seminara's got a good little lead, got Grant behind him, so that's a bonus for him, but that outside line's moving. Yeah, that's some good trucks in line up front.
Last week we saw Bob Seminara and Grant Wesley door banging to the checkered flag. What will we see this week as you still got Jeremy Jeffries and Ken Roberts up there along with Brian Schilling? This seems to be the way that the story should have ended. Your final 4 right now when they cross the line should all be inside of the top 5.
That's awesome. This is so awesome.
That time by lap led by Jeremy Jeffries, and he's going to get hit into Bob Seminara, and a big wreck as Wesley is into the wall. We had one truck up into the catch fence. The caution is out. We will stay with this battle back to the line because this is the battle for the championship. Jeffries to the outside of Bob Seminara.
Got Ken Roberts pushing him. You got Schilling coming up. Schilling's getting a run here.
Big push from Chuck McClure. He goes to the bottom of the racetrack. Where does Jeffries do? Here comes the momentum from the 4. Brian Schilling, who had engine damage in the early going, he's clear for the race lead with help from the 17. Out of the tri-oval, Brian Schilling is going to cross the line in P1. He will win the race under caution, and he's your season 57 champion of the Talladega Challenge Series.
I told you his truck was junk.
Oh my gosh, who had that on their bingo card? Somebody stand up, because you might buy a lottery ticket here tonight and win.
I'm going to tell you
cow.
what, Schilling is he's going to have to send Chuck some box of chocolates or something, because that 17 was glued to his rear bumper.
Brian Schilling, because of Grant Wesley's win last week, was the last driver to make it into the Final Four on points. We kind of had him in a bit of a detriment here tonight in the early going with engine damage, but he had a bumper full of Chuck McClure in that final run, and it was enough to get him to the checkered flag. We'll go back, obviously, and look and see what ended the race under caution. Grant Wesley caught up in that, so his bid for back-to-back championships ends just a couple laps too soon. That door banging between Bob Seminara and Jeremy Jeffries. The field was going so fast when they crossed the line because they knew what was happening with the championship hanging in the balance. It took forever for the pace truck to pick them up there off turn 4.
Oh, it's crazy, crazy finish. I'm watching this. That accident was Schilling and Jeremy. Schilling into the back of Jeremy. Not sure if that's what caused the spin or a late block by Jeremy. That'll be reviewed. So we'll see how it turns out.
Mentioned the fact that Brian Schilling, multi-time champion in the series, but it was all the way back season 47, the last time that he won a championship. 10 seasons later, he's going to be hoisting a championship trophy once again as he crosses the line for 2 laps to go. That should give us ample time to be able to go back and take a look at what's going to end this race under caution. I believe the truck that I might have seen go up into the catch fence might have been the 24 of Joe DeSpirito, who amazingly looks like he's actually going to cross the line under power. We do have a couple of drivers that will not reach the conclusion. They've actually retired out of the race, but let's see what happened here going into turn 1. And I think you're right. I think it was a late block there by Jeremy Jeffries. If you're Brian Schilling, first off, you're getting shoved by Chuck McClure, so you don't really have the option of lifting. But at that point in time, someone throws a block on you and there's a championship hanging in the balance, you can't lift.
Yeah, 100%. This is go time. There is no time to go back and start over and regroup. It's go time. You're coming to the win. You're coming to the big trophy. Do what you got to do. And it was exciting.
Tim Nofsker, Doug Hewlick, Donnie Garrett, Terry Bombard, like Robbie Nisus, they were all collected up in this race-ending incident. 3 wide for the lead. It was 3 wide, I think about 3 or 4 rows deep. This is how it ends. Boy, nice job there by Josh Metallic, able to get by on the apron. Nofsker came down and just barely clipped that 54. And then here was the battle back to the stripe. Schilling's running in 4th at this point in time. There's the battle there between Jeffries and Seminara. Ken Roberts stays with the 8 on that top side. And I'm a little bit interested about this because Jeremy Jeffries, he was clear on the 4 of Brian Schilling, and you see him move up the racetrack as if he kind of yielded that inside line to Schilling. Do you think that maybe because of the late block he threw there into turn 1, he kind of felt like, well, I owe you one here. I owe you that space.
It's a good possibility. And then, of course, he may have just thought that I'm in that middle line, or let me go back. I'm trying to catch up to where you're at. I'm a little bit behind you.
Schilling just crossed the line to receive the white flag, so as long as that engine stays in one piece, he should be able to take this checkered flag in the championship. We're under pacing here at 70 miles per hour, and McClure's still shoving the heck out of him.
Yeah, I'm not sure why Jeremy didn't move up there and for the block, but it could be like you said. He may have felt bad about the situation.
Looks like Terry Bombard, who was caught up in that wreck, his truck did not have enough power to be able to at least coast back to the checkered flag. He's going to finish out of the race in 25th. We also had Jeff Crivello, Bob Dixon. They went to the garage area a few laps ago. They'll finish 26th and 27th. Right now, Grant Wesley scored in 14th. He's still under power, and 3 of the 4 of the final 4 will finish inside of the top 4. Schilling right now in the lead, Seminara in 3rd, and Jeremy Jeffries in the 4th position, with Chuck McClure and Ken Roberts, the other 2 drivers right now inside of the top 5. And really, when you think about it, really the 2 X factors in that final run to the checkers, because Roberts was almost pushing Jeffries to this win, and then McClure obviously pushed Brian Schilling to the eventual checkered flag.
Oh, absolutely. When you got three of the guys that are in the top five, those other guys are going to be the huge part of it because you can't do it alone. There's no way you out there by yourself, two trucks together. Obviously, as you know, is going to blow by you. I see Jeremy going down pit road. I think Jeremy's taking responsibility.
Jeremy Jeffries will more than likely finish 20th here in the season finale. Wouldn't have won the championship with where he was running in third position anyway, so just taking that EOL penalty here in the closing stages as Brian Schilling and that number 4 truck is going to come to the start finish line. I said you didn't have to win the race to win the championship, but he does both here tonight as he is the season 57 champ of the Tally Challenge Series. Congratulations to the driver of that Square D Dodge, and I'd have to go back and look through the record books. When's the last time a Dodge took a checkered flag or took a championship in the Tally Challenge?
Oh my, that's a good question. I mean, I've only been here for 2 years, and I don't think I've seen one in that time.
Been a while. I mean, most of the former champs from the last at least 5-6 seasons that I can think of, they were in either Fords or Chevrolets. Grant, I think, was the first Toyota in a long time last year. This may be the first time in, well, I don't know what Schilling drove back when he won the championship in season 47, but if he drove a Dodge, then it might be the first time in 10 seasons that a Dodge has won a championship.
That's awesome, man. That was great to watch. And there I was saying for the almost what 3/4 of the race, man, his truck just ain't got it. His truck just ain't got it. But I told you, I think he was playing possum. He was wanting to think he had nothing, and then when it come go time, he's like, "All right, let's go, Chuck."
Well, if he didn't have the power that we assumed he didn't have, this is why in that type of series, you do not give up. If that engine's still running, it may not be at 100%, but you keep running because you never know what's going to happen. And Brian Schilling was the epitome of that here tonight. The engine may have been under power potentially, but I'm pretty sure it's got enough power in it to be able to do some victory lane and championship burnouts here at Talladega.
Oh yeah, win the race, win the championship. He's gonna blow that Dodge up. Well, it may not even last. With the engine trouble he's had.
Hey, he's not going to need it. They'll get new engines for next season. Use that thing up.
Right, blow it up.
Brian Schilling picking up the victory and the championship here tonight. Brian, prior to this season, to the season finale, ended up having only one other victory that locked him into the playoffs, and that was the regular season finale. So he's got a bit of a flair for finales here this year.
Brian, he always seems to, when it comes down to it, he's going to be there. He's a great driver. I respect Brian. I respect all these guys that were out here racing for this championship, pushing these guys. It's a good group of people. It doesn't surprise me at all that Brian won, except for the fact that he was in that wreck early and they shut his truck off. So that's the only reason it shocks me that he's out there still trying to blow it up.
All 4 of our championship competitors coming into tonight were out in front. Brian Schilling got that all-important last lap led. As a matter of fact, I believe, Brian Schilling, the only laps he led were the last laps under caution. It's the only time tonight that 4 truck was out in front, and what a time to do it. We'll be talking with him down in race and championship victory lane, as well as the other top 3 finishers, Chuck McClure and Bob Seminara, in just a moment. We'll give you a chance to peruse over the final finishing results here from season 57's season finale, and some good finishes here to end off the season for drivers that we didn't have highlighted in that championship battle. Ken Roberts in the 4th spot. Josh Metallic, a former champ in his own right, finishing out the top 5. Mark Paglia, who picked up a checkered flag earlier on this season, he's going to get 6th. John Godfrey, he was up in the top 10 really all night long. He's 7th. David Cannon and Glenn Harris, they made an emergence inside the top 10 late. They get 8th and 9th, and Dave Melson's going to bring it home inside of the top 10. Shelton in 11th, Milt Surratt in 12th. Grant Wesley, despite the fact he was involved in that last wreck, he was able to limp that machine across the line in 13th. Managed to make it into that final 4, but came up just about, roughly 10 miles short of being in the conversation for back-to-back championships. Nofsker Hewlick completing the top 15. You can see on down to Jeremy Jeffries, who, of course, took that late race EOL penalty 20 drivers finish on the lead lap, 24 drivers finish the race, and we had a total of 5 drivers back in the garage area. But ooh, lot to unpack here from this one. All those drivers up there at the front in the hunt for the championship. You knew something was going to happen. I'm going to be perfectly honest with you. I'm amazed that we ended up having 3 of our final 4 trucks finish up inside of the top 5, because with who the contact was made, where it was made, I thought the 712, I thought the 8, I thought they were spinning around. I'm amazed we only had 1 in Grant Wesley that was caught up in that wreck. I thought all 4 of them were going to get swept up.
Absolutely. I mean, really and truthfully, Jeremy finished up there with the exception that he served what he believes to be a penalty, or he would have been up there. I mean, that was crazy because they were sideways and just going everywhere. And for those guys to make it through, it's pretty amazing. But it was a crazy finish. It was really nice.
We'll give ourselves a chance to catch our breaths. We'll let the drivers do a little bit of talking here, as we'll now get prepared for post-race interviews. And let's kick things off with the guy that brings it home third place here tonight, just short of picking up another championship here in the Tally Challenge Series. See if we could talk with Bob Seminara. Hey, Bob, it's Rodney and Seth up here in the FRM booth. You got us?
Yeah, I got you.
Man, I will tell you what, we were on the edge of our seats up here in the booth watching all that was going down in the closing stages of that race. We knew it was going to be crazy when all 4 of you championship competitors were up inside of the top 5. I mean, the adrenaline was pumping up here. I can only imagine what it was like for you and the other 3 competitors. I mean, at that point in time, was there any strategy, or were you basically just hanging on for dear life, hoping that whatever line you were in was going to be the line that prevailed?
Yeah, it was pretty exciting. We made a big recovery there to get in position. Yeah, I had Donnie and Joe working good with me there. I thought we were in a good position, and then the wreck happened. So, and I couldn't get to the bottom. Brian passed me down there, but yeah, it was really exciting.
Bob, as it was coming down those last few laps, you pulled down there in front of Grant and Joe and Donnie, who had been working with you. Y'all had worked well together throughout the race. They were still hanging up out there, but when they started drifting back, did you start thinking maybe this is not going to work out for me, or you just think let's hammer down and keep going?
Yeah, it's pretty much hammered down. You know, that third lane was sitting out there. I know Grant was pushing me hard. He was trying to clear and probably jump up on me. But, you know, the laps were winding down. Yeah, you know, that's what happens. You know, I had to make that move, get ahead of Grant. So, and I knew Jeremy was going to go third lane. So that would help the bottom. And it was working good, but it didn't end well.
We ended up talking at the top of the program about the fact, the kind of elephant in the room, the random qualifying draw, especially in a season finale when you're a Final Four driver. Obviously, it didn't really work out in your favor. You rolled off the grid in the 24th position, so kind of had to adjust your strategy. We saw you gain track position staying out under the first caution, but then kind of put you behind the 8 ball after that first cycle green flag pit stops. Was there any type of scenario for you to get back into the championship picture had that caution not come out?
No, probably not, because we were off with the pitting. We were having to pit earlier, and we didn't have the draft. Yeah, that lotto cue, that did not, you know, I didn't want that. It's hard when you're back there. Then you got to decide whether you're going to be aggressive or not. So yeah, I hate that dictated the race, but you know, we made a big recovery to get back up there when it counted. That last pit stop came out in the lead draft, so can't complain. We you know, persevered and almost pulled it off there if that wreck didn't happen.
Almost pulled it off indeed. Congratulations, though, on ending out the season on a tremendous run, making it into the playoffs, in the conversation for that championship there in the closing stages. You bring it home third, going to be carrying that momentum into the upcoming 58 season. So, congratulations on a job well done, a season well done. We look forward to seeing what you do in future seasons. Before we let you go, though, Bob, the floor is yours for thank you, sponsors, and shoutouts.
Yeah, thanks, Seth, Rodney. Yeah, I hope we put on a good show. I'd like to thank all RTG, the admins and the owners. Congrats to Brian, the championship. Just everybody here, the running, thanks Donnie and past 2 weeks, and Joe and Bernie, Bernie's Paints, FTMF and Q. And yeah, we'll, we did the best we could. And yeah, I just couldn't get to the bottom there at the end. But yeah, congrats, and we'll be back next season. Suit it up and do it again.
Great season, Bob. Great season. Come up a little short, but great job, man.
Thank you, Rodney.
That's Bob Seminara, brings it home third place here tonight. He will subsequently be second in the championship standings at the conclusion of tonight's race. But once again, to echo Rodney, great job on the season, Bob, and best of luck next year.
Thanks, Seth. Appreciate you.
And let's see if we can now get the guy that brings it home in second place here tonight. Certainly was a huge deciding factor into who won the championship. Let's see if we can dial up Chuck McClure. Chuck, it's Rodney and Seth up here in the FRM booth. You got us?
How you doing, guys?
Man, I'll tell you what, we talked about the fact that, yeah, there were 4 drivers taking the green flag tonight that were battling for the championship, but there were also 25 X factors in the field that also had their own agendas. And it looked like at the end of this race, you were all about hooking up with that Ford truck. We saw you almost even spin him out through the trioval. You were pushing him so hard at one point. I mean, how difficult was it to be able to keep that truck linked up to the back bumper of Schilling to get him up there to the front?
We were hooked up pretty good. Yeah, we're teammates. Mission one tonight was to get him the championship. Mission accomplished, and he earned it for sure.
Chuck, that beautiful gentleman Jack truck that you drive, is there a front end left off on that truck? You literally were. That's about as aggressive as I've seen you push. That was a great job, man. Great
Yeah.
job.
I used it up for sure, and like I said, we had to get Brian his championship. He had engine damage. We didn't know what he had, but we got lucky, and things just opened up for us.
So talk
Yep.
about that, because, I mean, a lot of times when you watch super speedway racing, a lot of fans, when they watch, they don't realize just how much orchestration there is in being able to figure out who's the better one to lead a line, who's better to be the second place truck, third place truck, whatever. You talk about the fact that Ford truck was kind of under power, and there were a couple of times we saw that even you ducked out of line, jumped up to the top to be able to drop back there and work with the Ford truck. How difficult is it when, as I said, everybody's on an entirely different agenda to be able to orchestrate something like that?
Yeah. Well, like I said, we need to stick together. And me, the 28, the 088, the 4. Like I said, mission accomplished. Great job, Schilling. I can't be more happy for him. Unless of course, I would have won. But help your teammates.
Well, Chuck, a tremendous season for you. We know that obviously you would have liked to have been in that championship battle, came up just short after last week's final elimination race, but a great way to end off your season, multi-win season as well. We know that next season you'll be in that hunt for the playoffs again. We'll probably see you in victory lane a time or two, and maybe back in that final 4 to try and get another championship here in the Tally Challenge. But before we let you go, floor is yours. We'll let you do some thank you, sponsors, and shout outs.
Well, I want to thank all the admins here at RTG, and they do a great job. Of course, all my people I work with at Marshall County Schools. The gas man sitting right beside me here. Hey, Jerry. All my teammates, man, we got it done. That's what it's all about. And I need to say I'm sorry to Bernie Mobbs. I don't know if I shoved up into him or not. I feel bad about that, but yeah. Of course, you guys at our broadcasting, it's awesome. It's exciting to watch for sure.
Chuck, hell of a season. I enjoyed racing with you this year, brother. Great job. Heck of a job pushing Brian, because he had a truck that probably wasn't really capable of winning, and you helped make it happen. So good job, man.
I appreciate it, Rodney, and thanks for the paint and the magic sprinkles in it.
You got it.
Well, Chuck McClure with the push, probably of the season, brings it home in the second position here tonight. The deciding factor into who wins the championship here in season 57. Congratulations, though, on the runner-up finish, Chuck. Best of luck in your preparations for season 58.
Thank you, guys.
And let's go down to victory lane and talk with our race winner and champion here tonight, Brian Schilling. Brian, it's Rodney and Seth up here in the FRM booth. You got us?
Yeah, what's going on, guys?
I'll tell you what, we ended up hearing the documentation from Rodney in the early going that you had some engine problems, aerodynamically a little bit off the pace. At that point in time, did you basically think, that's it, the championship's over, I'm out of this?
Uh, yeah, I mean, for the most part, I was just staying in the draft, praying for a miracle because that's all I was going to get. All I could hope for is maybe a big wreck at the end, and I just drive through it. I just like last week, you just keep in it. You don't know what's going to happen until the checkered falls.
Brian Schilling, I talked about your junky truck all night long. How it's tore up, wouldn't run, motor's going to blow, probably won't even make it to the end. And then I started watching you. You started kind of making your way through there. And then I told Seth, I think he's been playing possum. He's all right. And sure enough, you won. I had you counted out, dude. Congratulations. That's a heck of a job, dude. I know Chuck was glued to your bumper for most of the night, and that's a good job. You guys did a great job coming up through there because I know that truck wasn't a winning truck. That's what I said at some time during the broadcast. Is you don't have a winning truck, but you did. Great job.
Yeah, if it was not for the 17, I know the 088 hoped to, but that last lap there, if I did not have Chuck helping me, this wouldn't happen. So, as most me and Chuck, we've known each other for years. We're great friends. I can't thank him enough for what he did, and he knows I will gladly do the same thing for him anytime. So, like I said, thank you again, Chuck.
Well, we mentioned the fact it's been 10 seasons since you last won a championship here in this series. We saw you kind of have the flair for the dramatic, getting that last minute win, the regular season finale. You get the victory here tonight along with the championship. I think the only thing that you did wrong tonight was you didn't wear white or yellow gloves because I would have loved to have seen the wheel motion trying to keep that thing under you with Chuck up your back bumper. But I mean, how difficult, explain to everybody that's watching here, when you are that truck that's out in front and you've got somebody pushing you. We've seen how these trucks, they move around no matter which line you're in. How difficult is it as the lead truck to make sure that the bumpers are lined up and you don't end up having, that dreaded bumper grab or get hooked in the left rear quarter panel?
Oh, it's tough. Like I said, the great thing for me was the 17. Me and him have been doing this together for years, so he knows where I'm going to be. I know where he needs me to be, and we just, it just clicks.
I'm going to rely on your memory here real quick. Do you remember back in season 47 if you were driving a Dodge at that time or not?
No, actually, this is the first season
Right,
that
so
I
I,
threw
I,
it in
I
there.
think this might be the first time a Dodge has, or at least in a long time, first time a Dodge has won a championship in this series. So making some more history here tonight as well. Congratulations on that. But Brian, obviously, we said it at the top of the program, you don't have to win the race to be able to win the championship, but you did both here tonight. Congratulations on a job well done, wheeling it there with McClure pushing you on that final run to what was the proverbial checkered flag with that caution. And the floor is yours. We're opening it up to you, giving you the mic. Time for you to do some victory lane and championship. Thank you, sponsors and shout outs.
All right, as usual, thank you to the owners, David Cannon, Sean Prime. This doesn't happen without them. Also, just shout out to Terry Bombard, too, at the end of that race until he got caught up. He was pushing two. Congratulations to the guys that made the Final Four. It's so tough. You're in, you're out. Jeremy, Grant, Bob. There's so many guys, so many competitive guys. It's always awesome to race with this group of people. Thank you to the admins that put on the series, and thank you every driver that comes out. Thank you guys for doing the broadcast here. I hope it made it a little exciting at the end.
Yeah, I think
Brian,
little exciting is an understatement.
Yeah, y'all made. I was on the edge of my seat, literally. I'm not kidding. I was leaning up here, looking at my monitor, just my eyes glued to it. That was phenomenal. I got a lot of respect for all you guys. I enjoy racing with you, Brian, just like I told Chuck and Bob. I enjoy racing with you guys. great season. Congratulations. And I'll see you next year, I guess, brother.
Copy that. Thank you. Sorry again, Jeremy. I couldn't lift there. You made the right move at the end there. It didn't stick. It just happened so quick. But thank you again, guys.
Brian Schilling, he is your season 57 Talladega Challenge Series winner and champion here tonight in the season finale. Congratulations, Brian. We'll let you get back to celebrating.
Thanks, guys.
So as Brian Schilling continues to bask in the moments, Rodney, we had the storylines come into this race. We had the drama throughout, and then we had the excitement and the entertainment in the closing stages, all for championship competitors in the conversation in those final 10 laps. The only thing we didn't have was popcorn provided us in the booth. That would have gone down well.
Oh, man, that would have been great. That would have been really great. I will tell you, this was exciting. I didn't know what to expect. I appreciate you having me up here. I was amazed at how exciting it was watching this up here. Sometimes I think it's easier when you're down there in the truck. It's pretty good. I do have a question for you before we sign off.
Right.
We all go back and watch these races, watch the broadcast, listen to you and see how we do. Do you ever go back and watch the broadcast and listen to yourself?
Sometimes I do. The strange thing is it kind of sounds like the voice in my head and I end up answering myself sometimes. So, I try not to do that as often, but yeah, sometimes I go back and watch these.
That's awesome, dude. You do a great job, man. It's been a great season. Enjoy every broadcast that you do. Sorry that Michael wasn't here tonight, but I'm kind of glad he wasn't so I could do this. But appreciate you, and like everybody said, the owners and everything. But FRN, and again, I'm gonna say it. I've said it about 3 times. You do a great job, dude. I appreciate you.
I appreciate it too. And it's great to be able to have a driver that races in this series week after week, be able to get their perspective as well, because I've run with you guys a couple of times, but not consistently enough to be able to know the ins and outs, the driving styles, what a driver feels in a certain situation. So to be able to get that point of view relayed to the folks that watch this broadcast, it's super important. So Rodney, I appreciate you bringing that to the table here tonight in this feature.
My pleasure, Seth. Thank you very much again for having me. Really enjoyed it.
And we thank everybody that tuned into our coverage here tonight. We hope that you guys enjoyed it. Of course, we'll be back for season 58 when these drivers will begin the road once again in the Talladega Challenge Series. Again, as mentioned too, we've got some more RTG action this Monday night. We'll be bringing you coverage of the All-Star Race. I'm sorry, not the All-Star Race, the Christmas event, I should say. The Happy Holidays 200 from Michigan Winter. So be sure to tune in for that. The green flag will fly at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'm sure we'll see Rodney out there on the racetrack, as well as several other drivers that we've seen here tonight. And as Rodney mentioned too, other drivers that we haven't seen in this series, but race as well in other weekly series that run under the RTG banner. But once again, Rodney, appreciate you joining me in the booth, and I'm going to wish you the same luck that I wish the other drivers here. Best of luck in the upcoming 58th season of the Tally Challenge.
Thank you, Seth. I'm looking forward to it. Again, appreciate it. Good night, everybody. Thank you, Seth.
Congratulations once again to Brian Schilling. He is your race winner and your season 57 champion of the Talladega Challenge Series. Until next season, for Rodney Sullins, I'm Seth Cole. Enjoy the rest of your Thursday night. You've been watching another broadcast courtesy of FRN, the Flatout Racing Network.
This broadcast is the copyrighted work of Flatout Racing Network and may not be rebroadcast, retranslated, or used in any form without the express written consent of Flatout Racing Network and iRacing.com Motorsports Simulations. Flatout Racing Network would like to thank you for your support, and we hope you enjoyed tonight's broadcast.